Okay, everyone, here we are. I am over Skype. Well, it's not really Skype, it's Google Hangouts with my girl, Kaitlyn Bristowe. What's going on, lady?
Oh, hey, just, having a glass of wine as per usual.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I almost said to you before we started to like just make sure that you had wine, but then I was thinking to myself, I mean, I don't need to tell her.
Yeah, no, we're good here.
She absolutely knows she can have as much as she wants.
Yeah, exactly.
hmm Thank you so much for coming on to chat with me. This is
Of
fun.
course.
I feel as if we're a little bit of two worlds colliding, but also the same exact world because we both like wine. We both have wine podcasts, sort of, and
Yeah, love
then
it.
every single tweet of yours that I see is like basically from my brain. So so I really am just feeling connected to you on all of those levels.
Oh my gosh, we should hang out more.
Seriously. But no, seriously, Caitlin, hang on with me.
I will. You don't have to talk me into it. I'm
Good.
already
Good.
sold.
But yeah, so I was just saying to you before we started, you are the first person that I've had on my podcast who's actually been in the position of bachelor or bachelorette
Oh,
on the show, The Bachelor.
yes, I feel honored.
Yeah, you should. And I don't know if that's exciting for you, but I mean, it's like a huge get for me. Like just so you know, like
No,
this
I,
is
I
like
love it because
moving on.
I love spilling secrets. So
Well, that's what I'm having you here for, basically. Like I just
ask away.
secrets. Actually, I did have one question. If you are the Bachelor or the Bachelorette, and obviously your contract is like extended for the time that you are on there, is it
Yeah.
extended like indefinitely? Like, are you forever bound to like never talk shit?
No, because if I was, oh my gosh, I'd be in so much trouble right now. But
Obviously.
no, I think it's just 2 years,
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
which is up. So you're good.
There you go. I don't have I feel as if when you're the Bachelorette versus when you're on
Mhm.
competing, it must be night and day. Do you think so?
Oh, a world of a difference. It's so funny because I was actually just Whitney, who was on my season of The Bachelor with me.
hmm
She was on my podcast today, and so I was going back to all the Bachelor episodes and watching, and it was so funny to me because I'm like, I had no idea what was even going on. Like I remember watching it back and being like, I don't understand. Like I see my connection with him. I don't know why he didn't pick me.
hmm
And like so many funny things that I watch back and now, well, watching at the time, like I didn't understand. Now watching back as I have been the lead, I watch back and just laugh at how clueless I was. It's hilarious.
Well, it's nuts because I feel like you're so left out of it. Like you don't really know what's going on, really.
Oh yeah, you
When
have
you're the
no
Bachelor or
idea.
Bachelorette, like they really leave you in the dark, kind of. And then we obviously, you'll see afterwards when you rewatch it, but um at the time it's like you're kind of being fed the information that you're supposed to know,
Hmm.
and you miss all of the like guys being assholes and like the fighting and all of that shit and
Oh
like
yeah, you have no idea because, and they don't want you to know either because they
right,
only
obviously.
want you to, yeah, like if there's a crazy one at the house, they want you to
Mhm.
think he might be like, well, he's TV gold, but they might want you to think he's actual gold.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Um, Also, what I think is crazy is on your season was a little bit different, and I was going to go back and watch to see exactly how it transpired, but then I forgot. But I know when you were on, and I can't remember exactly how it played out, but it was between you and Brittany at the
Yes.
time. And who like made that final decision? The guys made it, right? The guys had to like choose between the two of you as to like who was going to be the bachelorette.
Yes, which obviously I was not a fan of,
Which I think,
and it was
yeah,
so
I think
silly.
that's the most ridiculous. I mean, there's a reason that was never done again because that was ridiculous.
Yeah, I think they got a lot of backlash for that
I'm
because I
sure.
think I think they were obviously I don't think I know they were only thinking of ratings wise, like how many people can we get to tune in? But
hmm
I think they did get that. I think they got the ratings they were going for because who wouldn't want to tune in for that? But at the same time, they got the same amount of backlash for it. So as much as they got their views, they got a lot of hate for that because there's a lot of feminists out there these days who are not impressed, and even guys, that men can be feminist too. It doesn't mean
hmm
you're like in your face feminist, but they believe in women having the same like strength as men and all the same
Right.
values and everything. So I know like Sean Lowe, who is the Bachelor, he really stood up for us in that situation, saying that he did not agree with what they were doing, and I obviously did not agree with what they were doing. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I'm like, yeah, it's kind of worth it if I do get it. So
Right. Yeah. It's like I still want to be it, but also like this is kind of objectifying. I'm kind of over it.
right,
But
exactly. And especially
yeah.
letting the men have the power. Like and Chris Harrison said it in the worst way possible. I like sat him down after. I'm like, could you not? Like that was terrible. He said on live TV, he goes, "Who will be the better wife?" And I'm like, "Ah, oh,
Stop it. Oh my
that's what he
God.
said."
Oh my God. I wish that I had that memory in my mind. I can't believe I don't like remember him saying that. Well, at the time, now I think that especially after talking to so many Bachelor people,
Yeah.
um, I have like, I mean, I'm still like a little too nervous to talk shit about Chris Harrison ever, just because I feel like he's listening somehow. Like he knows everything and he's like everywhere.
Yeah, he's like a wizard.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm like a little nervous that some kind of Illuminati is going to come after me if I talk shit, but I definitely see him differently than I did then. So at the time, I probably was like, yes, Chris Harrison, like who is the better wife? You tell
Yeah,
me what's going on. And now I'm
exactly.
kind of like, that's like a dickish thing to do. Like just pick
No,
somebody and then have
that
it be
makes
the
so much sense. I feel like when Chris Harrison talks in general, you just like are so drawn into who
yeah,
he
it's
is, and you're
mesmerizing.
just like, yeah, and you're like, yeah, you're right. Everything he says, you're like, yeah, what? Who will be, and why did they do that? And yeah,
It's so
it's Chris
bizarre.
Harrison.
It's
Yeah,
so bizarre. I cannot explain it. And nobody, unless you watch The Bachelor or whatever, nobody really gets it. They're like, I don't fucking know who this guy is. Like, he's also the
yeah.
Millionaire host. Like, I don't know. Like, who,
He hosts
who
everything.
cares?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, he's got some kind of weird hold.
Yes.
Would you rather have been the Bachelorette during the time that you were, or would you rather be it now?
Oh. Oh.
I was thinking, I kind of like just thought, I'm sorry, you can hear like ice being taken out of the freezer in the
I
background. I got this new microphone and it like really, it has like a thing that controls ambient sound, but it's really not doing a good job. And all I can hear is like the ice in the freezer.
I
Like,
barely heard it,
oh,
if that helps, but
oh, thank God. Good. Okay.
that's a good question. Well, there's so many angles to look at that from, though, because I'm like, well, would Sean be on my season now?
Oh, right.
Because
Yeah, I didn't even think about it from that way. I was thinking strictly from like
Instagram following point
yeah,
of view.
well, I guess that also just media in general, like just because your perception is like nobody even watches. You don't even like have to watch the show anymore to like gauge what everybody thinks about the Bachelor or Bachelorette. Like they
Yeah,
just make these assumptions. I feel like that when you were on, that was like not totally the case yet.
yeah, that's a good point. I honestly think I would just keep it the way it is because I I do feel like it was a good time for me.
Hmm.
I don't really know why. I just feel like maybe it's because I've been there, done that, and I cannot imagine doing it again.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure that
Maybe
has
I'm
a
a little
lot to do with
jaded.
it. For sure. As far as the experience itself, how was it on like your family? Like how like I'm always so curious about the people's
Yeah.
families because like for example, my parents would be terrible. Like a hometown
Yeah.
come back to my house would just be like it would either be my parents would be really anxious and they like want to look cool for me, or they'd be like over the top, like that's our baby girl, like fuck you, like one of those, you know what I mean? So I feel like it's like ugh, how was your family about it?
Well, my family, it's funny because I've always been this very outgoing, kind of like performer type of person where I always thought I was going to be on TV somehow, but I more wanted radio and I wanted to be the host of something.
Hmm.
And I never even once thought to be the bachelor or bachelorette. What am I? To be the bachelorette. That never crossed my mind. Uh, and so no one was surprised when it happened. They were like, of course you are. Of course you're going on the show. And of
Hmm.
course you're now the bachelorette. And they were all really like along for the ride and very open to like the possibilities, whether it be, oh, I get like some sort of career out of this. Maybe I get the love of my life out of it. Like they were just open to anything. And then during the process and the hometowns, they were hilarious because they were kind of all those things you just said. You know, they were like very protective, but they were also trying to be like really cool for TV. But they were
Mhm.
also being like a really great family who is open to everything. And my mom's just a riot, so it was funny to try and watch her be serious and so concerned with being on TV because she's actually just like such a nut. And
Mhm.
she, I was like, Mom, loosen up. Like it's just be
Yeah.
yourself, please.
Yeah. Like have a drink. Like it's fine.
Yeah, have a couple. And
Yeah.
so it was funny to watch them be on camera. Also because you're like you kind of get used to, not used to, but you are aware of cameras and you kind of get comfortable with producers
Mhm.
and you have all this time to be around it and just kind of notice your surroundings, whereas my family was on it just like they were like deer in headlights and they were kind of like, what do I do with my hands, and like staring into right into the camera lens. Like they were awkward, so it was just
For
all
sure.
around very entertaining.
That I think would be if my situation were similar, that would be my number one thing is I would not be comfortable with the camera like always there. I'd definitely be so aware of it.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, it's kind of unnerving when you are used to it being there and you start to forget. I feel like what does that feel like? What did you ever have a moment where you were like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I forgot that I was being taped," or something like that?
Yeah, I think like you know what, now that I from last night watched back stuff from The Bachelor, I'm like, "Oh my gosh." Like I swam out to this dock at one point. We were on a camping date and I swam out
Mhm.
to this dock and I got up on it. And in my mind, I don't understand the technology and how much the camera can zoom. I'm like, they're so far away. And someone dared me to like take off my bikini and jump in the lake. And
Mhm.
I'm like, whatever, that is so me. I would do that. And I took off my bikini bottoms and jumped in. And I mean, people were just mortified that I would do that on national television, but I thought it was hilarious. And then I'm like, oh, those cameras can really get a good zoom in from like that.
Yeah, like it's they all of a sudden it's, that's right in your face sort of. Like they really got a good shot of me doing that.
Yeah, and I mean they can get so much footage. Like you're being filmed probably, I don't know, like 15 hours a day, 7 days a week,
Mhm.
and they're airing like 1.5 hour total on every Monday night. They can take whatever they want and make it
Mhm.
like whatever they want. So I kind of learned that just from my first round on The Bachelor, but that was also kind of a curse to me going into The Bachelorette because I was like, oh hell, I got a good edit. Like people, they made me look funny. It was
Yeah.
they were my friends. I feel like they were really looking out for me. And then fast forward Bachelorette, it's like, oh yeah, ratings. That's what you care about.
This flag. Okay.
Okay, that's what this is about. Okay.
That has to make you feel kind of good though. Like if you get a good edit, especially, but then obviously once you're chosen to be the bachelorette, like from the second you stepped on, somebody was like, all right, this is the game we're gonna play. Like I feel like it's
Absolutely.
it's so premeditated
It
that
is. Yeah.
and like straight from the jump, like probably first impression, I'd assume, like very soon, maybe after like a couple of episodes, but
I know. I
it's like not
always
calculated.
wonder how premeditated it is. Like
Yeah, that's a
when
good question.
when like even just from the beginning of The Bachelor, when I was doing this like one audition where they're saying, okay, yeah, we're gonna pick you. Like, did they have an idea that I could possibly
Mhm.
be the Bachelorette? So did they keep that in their mind the whole time, or was it like a last minute thing? Like, I have no idea.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel during the course of your like when you were on The Bachelor, when you were not the Bachelorette yet, did you ever like could you ever tell once it flipped and you were like about to become the Bachelorette? Like was there ever a time where you felt like, oh, I have an inkling or oh, I'm not really sure, but it kind of feels like I'm being pushed this way or anything like that?
Do you
I don't
mean
want to say pushed, but
on The Bachelor, or like when did I like the
on The
first night
Bachelor.
of, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
like beforehand, did you feel like I'm trying to think of the right word, like you're being groomed? Like, did you like all of a
Uh
sudden you're like, I'm getting a lot of attention. Like, I wonder why. Like, is there ever?
yeah, only like when it, you know, when I really thought so is when it was when I got sent home, and I thought because of my personality I am definitely not the girl next door little like um all American sweetheart, like that
Mhm.
what they usually pick as a bachelorette. So
Mhm.
um when I did get sent home and I got in the limo to do like my exit and do my whole crying spiel where I was all embarrassed,
Right.
one of the producers was like, "So, Bachelor in Paradise?" And I was like, no." And that's immediately what I thought was. I was like, "Oh, great, my edit's going to be that girl that was just drinking the whole time and
Oh
like
no, yeah.
crazy." And that's what I thought it was going to be. But when it came down to it, and it was the Women Tell All episode,
Hmm.
and they always position, well, it's usually the third person, the third to get sent home is usually who becomes the bachelor or the bachelorette.
Hmm.
And they put you in the last seat where everybody's cheering for everybody, and they introduce you, and then the last one gets the biggest cheers.
Right.
And as I saw how the show was playing out in that moment where I had that seat, and how they were saying like, okay, and you're gonna go up and talk to Chris Harrison, and it's like you could tell it was like a sad moment, and it was kind of like all the edit that I did get was me, and it was who I was and the position that I was in at that time. I was like, okay, this could possibly be a lead into The Bachelorette. But at the same
Right.
time, I always in the back of my mind was like, there's no way that this little edgy, crazy Canadian is going to be The Bachelorette. There's no way. I never thought
Mhm.
it until I got a call a week before it actually started filming.
That's so insane. I always
Hmm.
think that so obviously whenever you find out, and I feel like it's probably true across the board, when you find out you're becoming the bachelor or bachelorette, you don't know until the very last second.
Right.
And that's so nobody like will find out, even though
Right.
everybody like always ends up finding out.
Hmm.
But I feel like it's such a quick decision you have to make.
Hmm.
And like, how did you make that decision? Like, what was it that you were just like, yeah, fuck it, let's go? Or like, what about like work? What about, I don't know. I always
Yeah.
think about work specifically because like, I mean, I'd probably quit my job, but also, I mean, I could, what would I do when I come back, you know?
I know, and that's such a weird transition too, just because I came back from The Bachelor, and I couldn't really like go back. I was doing three different jobs before I was on the show, and
Hmm.
they were ones that like I went back and I tried to get back into this company that I worked for with. I trained servers at a restaurant, and I
Hmm.
kind of helped open different ones and train people, and I was doing some managing at this restaurant. It was one of my jobs, and so I went back, and they were kind of like, well, what if you get bachelorette? Like, we can't really take you back if you're going to leave us again in a month. And so that was kind of a hard thing for me to do too. So then I was in LA a lot, and getting like a kind of a lot of press just from being sent home from The Bachelor. And I had a meeting with Mike Fleiss, who's the creator of the show, and
Oh,
I guess like
oh, I know
this.
who Mike Fleiss is.
Yeah,
Mike Fleiss
I,
is on my fucking list right now. I'm so
yeah.
over him at the moment. He's another one too, though, that I get nervous about talking shit because I feel like he's listening. But anyway,
Oh,
keep going.
tell me about it. Tell me about it. But he
Yeah.
apparently, like, he needed me to come into his office for an
Oh,
interview,
wow.
and like of why he should pick me to be the bachelorette, which I found very interesting because I haven't really heard of anybody ever having to go in for an interview and trying to convince him why they
Yeah.
should be the one. He
So
just picks
intense.
them.
Hmm.
And so I felt very just strange about the whole situation going in right off the bat. Like I was like, why do I have to convince this guy? Like I don't want to. If he doesn't want me as the bachelorette, that's fine. Don't pick me then. And I didn't want to have to sit there and kiss somebody's butt, convincing them that I should be the bachelorette. That's just not
Yeah.
who I am. And so
Hmm.
I went in and I just kind of said that to him. Like he asked me why he thinks that I should be the bachelorette, and I said, well, I don't know. Like I don't really have an answer for you. I obviously believe that I could fall for somebody because it just happened, but I don't want to convince you that you need to pick me if you don't think that I should be the one. And I just kind of like stood up for myself the whole time, which I'm not sure if he appreciated or not. But
Hmm.
when it all came down to it, it did end up being okay. Let's pit two women against each other and see who the men want. Let's give the men the power. And so I originally, one of the producers picked me up after the interview, and he was like, okay, we just had like a quick meeting, and I have good news and bad news. And the good news is, um, we do want you to be the bachelorette, but bad news is we're also going to pick Britt, and it's going to be two bachelorettes on night one. Um, but like it's for sure going to be you. And I'm like, well, you obviously are telling her the same thing. And they're like, well, yeah, we are telling her the same thing too.
Oh my
And
God.
I'm like, okay. And I said, okay, well, I'm not doing it. And I remember having this whole breakdown in the producer's car, and I just started crying. And I'm like, why would you do that to both of us? Like, that's, I don't want to do it. And I kept saying no, and I kept saying no. And I
Mhm.
mean, they are very good at convincing you of when things are the best idea ever and what could come of
Yeah.
it. And when I talked to my family, and I talked to my mom a lot about it, and wanted their opinion and what they thought, and they all said like, why not? Like,
Mhm.
why wouldn't you? Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? Like, your pride is going to get hurt, but really, like, you'll go out with like your head held high, and it'll just be like it's not meant to be. And best case scenario, you do become the bachelorette, and best case, you do find somebody that you spend the rest of your life with. And I was like, yeah, that's a good attitude to have. And
Mhm.
I just went into it like, basically, like, I want everybody to know that I'm not comfortable with this, and I don't enjoy this, and I'm really nervous, and I'm not all for this, but I'm hopeful, and like, let's see what happens. And it doesn't mean that I'm not the better wife. It means that these group of guys are not for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
completely.
Hmm.
That better wife comment, I like can't stop thinking about it.
Oh, I know.
Cannot believe it. I didn't stick in my mind more. Like I said,
I
probably
know.
the like hypnotism thing. But
I know.
that's such a jarring experience too, because not only do you have to explain to your family like, oh, I'm about to be on the show, you're like, oh, actually I'm gonna be on the show and I'm gonna be pitted against someone else, and you
Hmm.
like might see me lose out on like a basically a popularity contest on TV.
Yeah,
That's what it
exactly.
boils down to, which like, I mean, I don't know much about Brit, like where like what Brit's up to, but I
Hmm.
mean that's still that like sucks. Like
It
obviously she was
does.
fine. Like I haven't like
Well,
you
she
know.
just got married the other day, actually.
Oh, well, good for her.
Yeah,
And she's like she was like really cute and fun too. Like it would
yeah,
have
I
been
liked
good
her.
either way. Like she didn't, but it's still so odd to think like what if it had been reversed. Like I can't
I know.
imagine like even having been that interested in it if she had like won, I guess, with the
Yeah.
guys.
Well,
Also
it's
like
funny. Like, it's funny to think that if she did become the Bachelorette, I'm like, wait, that could have been a lot easier. Like, what if, because she left
mhm.
night one and a guy went chasing after her and they dated for a while. And I'm like, wait, that would have been a lot easier if I just was sent home night one. Britt became the Bachelorette, Sean left and came after me, and we didn't have to go through the show.
Yeah,
I'm
wouldn't that have
like,
been nice?
I'm like, man, that might have been good, but at the same time, then yeah, it's just everything happens a certain way for a reason. But I felt terrible when they said that she went home, because I knew like that would be so hurtful, and it's
Mhm.
so tough on the ego. Like, it's just, even though it's not like you're a terrible person and you're not wanted and you're unlovable. Like, no, that's
Totally,
not what
yeah.
it is. But it's just such a shot to the ego.
Yeah, it's not great for like mentality.
Mm-mm.
Um Speaking of the love of your life, Sean.
Yeah.
So he first of all, I love him. He's like
He is
so
so
precious. You
great.
two are precious. I know that you hear that all the time, so it's like
Yeah,
no
but that
shock.
doesn't get old.
Yeah. Good. Um, you guys are great on like Snapchat. I'm trying to think all the shit that you guys are on. You guys just kind of chill and are
Yeah.
really normal and cool, which is nice when you are following all those people on social media or you see all these manufactured relationships and
Hmm.
whenever you get a good one out of it's really nice to see. Like it's just kind of uplifting and positive. Like I feel like it's such a amongst such like a controversial thing. Now all of a sudden it's like a huge
Yeah, it's so crazy just because like we forget that's how we met, because it just feels like such a normal, loving, good relationship that
yeah.
has its, like, obviously ups and downs as a relationship, and it just feels so normal
Hmm.
that we forget that it was such an abnormal situation that we met in. And so strange to think back on that, because it it's just like we both kind of were like, what are the chances we find the love of our life on this show? Like, we
Yeah.
both went into it with that attitude. And now we just bought our first house together, and we're just like traveling the world together and doing the craziest things that we love to do together. And it's just so weird. We forget that's how we met.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I would do if I wouldn't have met someone like him on the show, because if he wasn't there, I would be single right now.
Yeah, like where would you, I mean, there's no other way that your paths would have crossed. Like it's such a
I'd probably be
strange.
getting, I'd be walking down the aisle to Ben Higgins. So
Oh,
just
right.
kidding. Just kidding.
Damn. Yeah. Shut up, Ben Higgins. Jesus Christ. Oh my God.
Uh,
Oh my God, that's really
yeah,
funny.
no.
But but yeah, I mean, like it's so funny how all of that turns out, and I like can't even think of. I think now when I think of you guys, I think more of your current relationship and your current life that I see like through social media, obviously,
Mhm.
than I do of the actual TV show that you guys were on. Like I
Yeah.
don't even think back. I don't even think I could name like one scenario where I remember the two of you. And I'm
Yeah.
wondering if so obviously when you met him, was it just like game over? You were like, you know what? Ugh, like I'm going through the motions at this point. I don't even really know. Like,
Yeah, but that was part of the problem. So it was exactly like that. And it was
mhm.
night one that I was like, I actually said it to producers and I could not stop gushing about him. Like
Oh, that's so
they
sweet.
were like, you gotta stop. Like, and but that was my mistake because I shouldn't have played it like that. I should have been like, I really like this guy, but I'm open to blah blah blah. But I was just like, nope, game over. I know this is who I want, that they actually had to kind of take him down a notch and
Hmm.
kind of make me feel like, no, he might not be the one to make a TV show. So it was so draining because I got so confused and I really truly believe, like, I remember sitting at one of the dinners of the dates with Sean, and I remember looking out at all the producers. And I remember Sean just being like so confused. And I said, don't worry, like these producers want what's best for me. I am like family to them. They are family to me, and they would never let me down. And I truly believed that they were my friends because I just didn't understand the world of reality television and
Right.
the making of a show. And I was so naive, and I really believed sometimes when they were telling me like, I don't think Sean's the one, and I don't think this, and I don't know if he's going to be the best for you. I would start questioning that because I thought these people were my friends, and I really didn't have a lot of time with Sean. So I'm believing them. And really, they were just trying to make a show. So now going back, I'm like, oh man, I should have been like, yeah, he's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, like not confessing your love immediately, so they like keep him
Yeah,
away. Do you guys
exactly.
ever? What does he say about like what they said about you? Were they to him like, oh, Kaitlyn's like she's so obsessed with all the other guys, like don't worry about it. Like,
Yeah.
you're
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They would say, I'm not sure like exactly what, but I know they would say like she really likes the attention from the guys,
my
and
God,
like,
that would drive me crazy if I heard that
yeah,
after the fact. Like if I had heard from my betrothed, obviously, I'd be like, what the fuck? Like that's literally not what I was saying. I was screaming about how much I liked you behind your back this whole time. Like this is such
yeah.
a
That was one of the hardest parts because I mean, I wish he could. Well, he knows now, but like at the
right.
time, he could have heard all the good things that I said because,
Aw.
like,
Mhm.
they would say, okay, tell me what you love about this guy and what are your concerns. Okay, now this guy, what do you love and what are your concerns? And then they would just like overly gush about what I loved about this guy, and then they would me say my concerns about Sean. Like, and it just because they needed, also because I spoiled everything on Snapchat by accident, so that by
Mm-hmm.
the end they're like, oh well, we really got to make it look like she doesn't pick Sean because that's what people think right now.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, God, that's so nuts. What do you think that they're like? Why do you think that they didn't want like the happily ever after right away? I'm shocked that they didn't as soon as you
I
hear that
don't
kind of
know.
like pit you guys together more. Like I wonder if like you had been kind of more able to speak with each other and more able to like kind of hang out if it would have panned out the way it was, or do you think that the kind not forbidden love but the kind of like low key telling you he's not really the one kind of planted it in the back of your head and you were like, actually I think you're wrong? Like I wonder if you would have
Yeah,
recognized
I
that otherwise.
I don't know. I was just like I mean, I was in such a weird dark place by the end of it that I didn't even
Mhm.
like know who I was at a certain point. Like I was like, wait, who even do I like and who am I? Like because I was
Oh my
just
God,
so
yeah.
confused, and you don't get to talk to friends and family and all these people who know what you like and know what you want. And that's why it was so nice at the time when the two met the family because they can see, and they were like,
Mhm.
Kaitlyn, my dad just said like, I mean, I don't know if it was off camera, but it was a time where there wasn't specific cameras on us. He was like,
Hmm.
you know, right? And you know, it's Sean, right? Like, I'm like, yeah. And
Hmm.
it was just like they just saw it and it was so obvious to them, which always I went back to like, yes, it's obviously Sean, but then I'd get so confused with producers telling me, you know, because they're just doing their job and they
Right,
had to do
obviously.
that
They're just,
to
yeah, they're
make,
making a
yeah.
TV show. And it sucks too. It sucks because people get so pissed. And I like me too. Like I hear about these stories and I'm like, fuck, these producers are like such assholes. But then again, first of all, that's like an incredible skill to have
Hmm.
to be like really manipulative, which is, I mean, it could be good or bad either way you look at it. Also,
Yeah.
it's kind of a dope job. Like it's,
Yeah,
you get to
exactly.
create this show out of like all these people's emotions. Like you just kind of it's like malleable. It's in your
Hmm.
hands and you're creating it. But it's
Yeah.
it sucks on the other side, obviously. But it's hard to put 100% of blame on them because you think to yourself like,
Right.
oh, I signed up for this. Like I kind of.
Exactly.
Mhm.
That's why it's so tough too, is because I'm like, I can't complain. Also, I got Sean out of this. We are obviously like meant to be together
Mhm.
and we get to travel the world and we get this like platform where we get to like have this income and do these cool jobs and have a voice and there's so much positive that comes from it that I think that is how these producers do their job and they can
Totally.
sleep at night because they're like, you know what, we actually set you up for a lot of success as well. So,
Yeah, if it works out in the end, yeah, I bet that's the underlying thing, especially nowadays. I bet it's like, all right, well, whatever, you're gonna get like 1 million Instagram followers out of this, so you're welcome.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
regardless of what
exactly.
happens, dry your tears in your Instagram comments. Like, I don't
Exactly.
care. Yeah, I feel like that
Yeah,
has to be
exactly.
the mentality of it for sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of great opportunities, I saw a little episode of Family Feud that you were on, lady.
Oh, so much fun.
And I watched it accidentally. Like I never, it was on one night after, so I'm jumping into it without even explaining. It was an episode of Family Feud. It was bachelorettes versus bachelors. I think, was
Hmm.
it strictly bachelorettes and bachelors or were there like some contestants too?
No, because like Ashley I was
Ashley, I,
there
that's right.
and
I was,
Jade and
that's it.
Tanner
That's
and
it.
yeah. Hmm.
And so, it was, yeah, I think it was you, Andy, Ashley, I, Jade, and
Sarah Heron.
Sarah Heron. That's
Hmm.
right. I think maybe I forget. I honestly don't remember all the guys. I just know like Ben and Sean, and I can't remember everybody.
Cupcake, who I
Right,
left on a cliff, and
obviously.
Ben Z
Ben
was
Z.
there.
That's right.
And who? Oh, and
And then
Tanner.
Tanner. Yeah, oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Mhm. Anyway, yeah, so there we go. That wasn't that bad. So it was on after an episode of The Bachelorette, I believe, and
Oh yeah, it
I was
was.
like
Yeah.
watching. So I like don't even ever watch what comes on. Usually it's like the news that comes on afterwards. I'm not even
Right.
paying attention. All of a sudden I look up and it's like Family Feud with the Bachelorette contestants, and it was like you and Andy, and I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like,
It was so
how did
funny. That
you?
was actually my second time on when I
Oh, you're
was,
kidding. I
yeah,
didn't even
no.
know that. How do you get involved with Family Feud? Also, like,
Well, because it's ABC, right? Isn't it?
oh, true. I think it must, I mean, and it must be if it's like airing on ABC after The Bachelorette. I just
Yeah.
like, I was laughing so hard because it's such a random ass show. I'm like, this must be the highest rated Family Feud that's ever been on. Like, quite literally, these are the biggest guests that they've ever had. And it was you guys, and you guys all looked like so fucking glam. I was like, these
Oh yeah.
people, how much money did they shell out for this episode? Like, this is
Oh
like,
yeah, we had full hair, makeup, glam.
oh yeah,
Oh
I
yeah.
could tell. Like I was like, everybody looks like incredible, like full blown, like bachelorette makeup. Like when you're in the hot
Yeah.
seat.
Yeah,
Um,
that was funny because yeah, it was my second time. So
oh my
the
god, I
first
didn't
time I
know.
was so nervous and I don't get nervous for a lot of things,
Right.
but I was so nervous for the first one. It was with me, Sean Lowe, Catherine, Molly, and Jason.
Hmm.
And oh my gosh, I don't even remember who we were against. That's so weird. I have no idea.
Whatever.
That was because it was like a very dark time in my life when the show was airing,
Right.
and I was like,
Obviously, it
oh my
was
God, I just
when
want to
you're
hide.
blacking out and you were like on the just
Yeah,
yeah, just like
just get
literally.
me through everything. Yeah. And
Hmm.
so this time I just had a blast because I was kind of like, I know what I'm doing here. And it was against the guys. It was just really fun. But oh, I just love Steve Harvey so much.
He really is a riot. Like
Oh, he's
I
hilarious.
never, like I said, I never really pay attention to that show. I never pay attention to any of that. And I was sitting on the couch, like sitting Indian style, like basically putting my face in the TV, laughing out loud. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me?
I was so animated. I watched it back again after that Bachelorette episode. That was the second time they aired it. Like it had already aired a while ago.
Oh my God, it's such a
and
weird
that was
thing.
the
I can't believe I didn't miss it. I like missed it the first time around.
I
I'm
know.
so shocked.
It is weird, but yeah, I watched it back. I'm like, okay, settle down, Kaitlyn. I was so animated and just like screaming and shaking and jumping up and down. It was hilarious.
Do they let you drink before that? Are they like
No? And I was like, can we
oh
get
my
some
God,
wine
what?
up in here? Like, and they could no, they did the first. Oh, did they? Yeah, they went and got a bottle of wine, I think, when I was, that's what happens when you're not the lead anymore. They did it when I was the lead, and
Oh, right,
not
when you're the
this
bachelorette, they're like, you know what, anything for you, lady. And then afterwards, it's like, no,
They're like, you're old news. Sit down.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, you don't need any more wine. You're good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, that's hysterical. I would need so much wine to go on a show like that, just because. I mean, it's not even that intense. It's so quick thinking, and it's very much like a show where you have to think like everybody else, and that's
I know.
that's a scenario where I'm so overthinking everything. I'm like, oh, everyone will get this because of like this mentality, and it's actually zero people think that.
I am the same way, and I feel like I pride myself on being really quick and witty, and
Same.
And then, but in those situations, I don't know what it is. Like you saw it was Sean against me, and they asked like a game question, and I froze, and I got the big buzzer because I'm like,
oh yeah,
I can't think of a simple like kindergarten answer for this question.
Never. Kindergarten answers, I think, are actually the hardest answers to give.
Really hard.
The easiest, like first thing that pops in your head. I'm like, no. It's anything that pops in my head has gone through like 15 steps first. Like there's no first thing in my head.
Yeah. Unless it's like a movie quote, then I can quote like nobody's business. But if it's a kindergarten question, I'm like, duh.
Exactly. Yeah. Forget it. So that really cracked me up. I was happy to see that. So any Family Feud fans, please go back and watch that episode because it was actually hysterical.
It was a good one.
Okay. So also I had a couple of people submit questions I have to shout out my friend Annie who responded to my tweet to you today, or I tweeted at you saying that like anybody submit questions, like blah, blah, blah. And she responded and was like, oh my God, I'm going to submit a question. Even if it's bad, please read it. Also tell her I love her. It was like, I forget. I was just like, tell her I love her and Sean and I forget who else, but I just,
shout out to Annie.
Just so you know, shout out to Annie. Well, anyway, so that's separate from what I'm about to say, but I just wanted to quickly shout her out.
Wait, so we don't have a question from her?
No, she never submitted a question. That's why I was like,
Annie?
I waited. I was like, Annie, damn it. Like I'm talking to her at 8:00. I gotta know. And she never submitted anything. So whatever. Sorry, Annie. She still gets a shout out though. So I guess it's not that bad.
Yeah. You snooze, you lose though. No question. Fine.
Yeah. Damn. Whatever. No info for her. But so the only question that we got that I deemed acceptable was from someone who did not sign a name. And the question is, are you an alcoholic?
My answer to that is alcoholics go to meetings. I'm a drunk and we go to parties.
That's an excellent answer. There you go. I'm going to steal that. I'm stealing that.
Yeah. Feel free to recycle that one. It's so funny because people actually, was that today? Yeah. I posted a picture to promote my podcast and I had a glass of wine in my hand and this lady said, you always have a glass of wine in your hand and it's concerning. And I was like, well, it's concerning that you also comment on my Instagram when I don't know you that and suggest I have a drinking problem. Like now you're concerning me. So I guess we're equal.
I laugh so hard at these people. And I think I mentioned this on every single podcast that I ever put out is just how I don't understand the people that have the time to comment on Instagrams or tweets or respond or whatever that have no idea what's going on. And they just want to say something. Like they just want to like, I don't even know. It makes no sense. But the thing about the wine and like, obviously also having a wine podcast, that's why this question like really made me laugh. I get people say that to me all the time. Like, you're an alcoholic, like you're a drunk. I'm like, I'm not like drinking at work. Like I take pictures with wine in my hand because I have a wine podcast. Like
exactly. It's a part of the brand. It's actually like a prop at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Like I had like a glass of wine and I only drank half of it because I don't even think it's that good right now. I'm like not in the
Oh,
mood
I
for it.
know.
I'll drink it later.
It's so funny because yeah, people pigeonhole everybody what they see on Instagram and what
Mhm.
like it's like that's one picture I took 2 weeks ago to promote this podcast, and I had a glass of wine in my hand. And guess what? I'll have more glass of wine in my hand because that's part of my brand and my podcast. And it's just like I said, it's like a prop, and it's so funny because people make those comments to me as well all the time, like,
Mhm.
"Oh, you're always drinking." It's like, well, I'm not really, but I also like use it as something to joke about too. Like, oh,
Right,
better get
exactly.
my
Like
wine. Oh,
I'm also like kind of drinking a lot, but like not enough where it's like
like,
semi
don't be
AA.
concerned. I'm good. I've actually got my shit together. But like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm not
it's
drinking more than anybody else. That's for
yeah,
sure.
it's like not a big deal to have a glass of wine at dinner. By the way,
It's so incredible. And that's yeah, so this question really made me laugh out loud because it's like the the facade that you have to put on. And even when I'm talking about anything, I'm always like, oh, and like need a glass of wine or oh my God, like
yeah,
I'm so hungover
it's
today. It's like I had probably one glass of wine and I just have a headache. Like I'm not actually hungover. Like I
I
just want
know.
something to complain about is really what it comes down to.
Everyone thinks you just woke up and had like a bottle of Pinot Grigio for breakfast and blacked
Mhm.
out the rest of the day because you're a raging alcoholic.
Right. It's like, what the
Yeah.
fuck are you even thinking? Ugh, these people.
Well, I don't even want to know the other questions then.
No, I say that the other ones were, I mean, it was basically intertwined with a lot of the Bachelor questions I had already, but I wanted to take credit. So I didn't, I already had those questions and they were asking the same shit. I was like, you guys are stupid. These aren't the hard hitting cues that I want to ask.
I
But
know.
that was the highlight. So shout out to the random person who didn't leave their name when asking, are you an alcoholic?
Oh, I hope she's listening
I hope
and
so too.
feels silly.
I hope so too. I hope that whenever I think about these people, and I don't know if you do the same for your podcast, if ever anybody like shouts you out or you mention somebody, I always am hoping these people are like listening to the pod and they hear us talking about them and just like get really embarrassed at their desk. Like I imagine like a really embarrassed person at their desk.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, that happened on my podcast once where I actually feel so bad about this because I'm not like a mean-spirited person, but I
Mhm.
also know sarcasm and when to
Right.
use it. And I
Mhm.
think my comedic timing is just like it's a little bit sarcastic and it's not ever meant to be mean-spirited. And it's
Oh
so
yeah.
funny because this girl called in and she said, like I do confessions on my podcast. And so
Mhm.
I was getting people to call in, and this one girl said that she like falls asleep to watching YouTube videos of people popping pimples, and like that's fine, but she went as far to say is like, oh, I'm like I live for it. It satisfies me more than any man could.
What?
And I was just like uncomfortable. And so I was like, "Oh my gosh, like that's I don't want to forgive you for that. Like
Oh
that's
my
not
God.
okay." And when she hung up, I think we just kind of like continued on with how disgusting and disturbing it was, but it was all in like good fun, and I
Yeah.
felt like she was calling in to confess, to like admit like, yeah, this is disturbing, and we just kind of played off that. But she was so offended, and she wrote me a message saying like that she felt like it was very mean-spirited and that it wasn't a safe place for her. And I was like, "Oh,
Oh,
like
what?
I'm sorry. I didn't realize that you actually thought it was a safe place to tell me on my podcast that you
I
enjoy
mean,
people popping pimples."
what person is like, I'm gonna call in to a
Hmm.
podcast, like
Hmm.
a very like funny, lighthearted podcast,
Yep.
and I'm gonna tell you about this really weird thing I do. And
That
then
satisfies you more
I'm
than a
gonna go
man.
as far, yeah, and I'm gonna go as far as to say it pleasures me more than any man. And then I'm gonna be like, she's gonna be like, you know what, girl, you're right. Like,
Yeah.
who knows? In what world are you? Is that working?
I don't know. That is a
Oh, hi.
weird world we live in,
I don't understand it. I like will never.
especially the Twitter world.
I cannot wrap my head around it. Oh yes, I
Nope.
mean, well, first of all, don't even get me started on the Twitter world. That's another thing that I bring up on every single podcast of mine is just the anomaly that is Twitter.
Yep.
I have no words. What are your quick thoughts on the 280 character limit?
Oh, that's it. Yeah. Why didn't I get that?
I don't know why. I don't know, and I don't know why I didn't either. Like, not that I'm anybody, but I kind of want it. Like, I just
Well,
for a
what was
second.
it like? Did they choose at random? Who got it?
Yeah, it's like it was a random. I was trying to figure out like how it was done, but I've seen people with like blue checks and like random nobodies with it. So I'm wondering if it was just like some sort of, algorithm, like this amount of people who use it all the time and this amount of people who never use it. I'm sure they're trying to like get more people to come on Twitter because
Is that what it is? Or are they like testing the system and be like, ooh, maybe if we give them this amount of characters, more people will be on Twitter?
that's what I'm assuming. Like I bet they're trying to get like the Facebook audience, like the people that want to post novels about politics. They like want those people to come to Twitter. And I'm just like,
as a Canadian, I'm like mind blown of the politics on Twitter
oh my
and
God.
what people have to say, because I'm like, I'm not used to this. I don't understand it. And like, I cannot believe how people are like, no, you cannot have your own opinion, but I can, and here's mine. And like, and so much hate for it too. Like it is mind blowing as a Canadian. Like it's just
no, it honestly must be like so I don't ever. I talked a little bit. I before I spoke with you, I recorded like a pre thing talking about some current event stuff, like just random, and I mentioned obviously the like what's been going on the past couple of days with Las Vegas and everything, and I'm not like a political person. I never give my opinion because nobody agrees with anybody. So I'm just like, whatever, like, I'll think what I think. And then I don't need anybody's opinion. Nobody wants to hear mine. Like, that's like my thoughts on it. So whenever I see someone say something like completely in the middle of the road or completely sweet, like, for example, I saw you today post something like, I hope that my podcast will like, basically let you laugh for 45 minutes, like in the middle of this like dark time. Yeah. And people responding being like, can't believe you're promoting a podcast at a time like this. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Oh, and I know. And then they go, well, I'm a really big fan, but, and I'm like, no, you're not. Like,
no, you aren't. You're also an idiot. Like,
you're a Twitter jerk. Yeah, you're I know. It's people. I honestly, like, I got so mad today just because I'm like, why do I even have Twitter? Like, why I can't, and that's why I think about the more Twitter characters of people to write whatever. I'm like, no, 140 is more than enough. I don't want to hear anymore.
No, you absolutely do not need any more. And I'm fully behind Team 140. I also could never get rid of my Twitter because I'm just addicted to it. And that's like also where the majority of my following comes from. My Instagram has like an okay amount of followers, but nothing compared to like anything that will ever help me. So like quickly follow at Kelly.Keys on Instagram, everybody. But quick plug, but also, my Twitter is like where anybody knows where I am. So Instagram's like not even a thing.
Right. For me. I'll follow you on Instagram.
Oh my God, thanks. But yeah, so I'm like a slave to Twitter. Like I have to stay on it or else like what's going to happen to me? Nothing.
Yeah, it's your
God forbid you fall into the abyss. That's like people without podcasts. God forbid.
Wait, are there people out there who don't have a podcast? I thought that was like the thing. It's the new Instagram.
Today, right now, as of October 3rd, I don't think that there's anyone left without a podcast. Actually, if you're truly wondering, I think that at this point, every single person has officially made it onto the iTunes charts.
I actually heard that my dog is going to have one soon. So.
Oh, wow. That's so weird because I heard that too. It's like so crazy that you say that. Because
Tucker just came into the room. It was like, I don't know if you can hear him breathing.
I can actually. And
he just ran in with Sean, and Sean just started doing a weird dance in front of me, and I think that means he's hungry, and I need to make him dinner.
Of course, that's excellent. Well, tell him it's perfect timing, so it's just about to kick you off anyway.
That was good timing, actually.
Awesome.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So Kaitlyn, tell us where we can get your pod. Do all your plugs. I need to hear it all.
Oh yes. Oh, let me do that. Okay, so you can find me. My podcast, it comes out every Tuesday with podcast one. It's called Off the Vine. It's basically just 45 minutes of me drinking wine and being ridiculous with, anyone from country music singers to friends to Bachelor fan favorites to my lovely fiance. I had to say that because he's standing right here. Right. And and then all my other things are just okay. Yeah, exactly. All my other everything's just Kaitlyn Bristowe, I think, unless you want to follow me on Snap, which you should because I put a lot of effort into those, and that's Snapback Bean.
Yes, you should. And that's actually, I second that. Absolutely follow her on Snapchat. That's really important. Also, kudos to your podcast name being much better than mine, FYI.
Hey, no, yours is pretty good. It's clever. I like it.
It's just because I'm a narcissist, so I have to like put my own name in my own podcast. So yours is like a little bit better, like a little less.
Mine's still there. I wanted mine to be there because I'm right there with you. And I was like, but it has to be Off the Vine with Kaitlyn Bristowe.
Obviously. Yeah. Nobody forget. It's with Kaitlyn Bristowe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kaitlyn, for coming to chat with me. This has been incredible. I really
Of
appreciate it.
course. Thank you.
Have a good dinner. Tell Sean I say goodbye.
Hey, she says goodbye. He said, hey, yo.
Thanks. I'll talk to you guys later.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye.